welcome to another episode of Real Tips Live. I'm your host, Author Sheena B.
Yo, what's happening? I'm co-host King.
All right, so we got a good one for y'all tonight, and it is accepting the step kids. I think that this is a very important real tip. You want to start off?
Yeah. So now I know that, like, speaking from personal experience, me being a stepchild as well as me being a step parent, I know in a lot of marriages, it is very difficult for the children to accept the new spouse or for the new spouse to accept the children. So with that, I know one thing that we really do believe, and like we don't even use the term step parent in our house. We don't. Point being is because, you know, when my mom got married, my dad never called me his stepson. He immediately went in going in calling me his son. And so that was something I didn't know, that when I got married, that my wife was going to have children, and then vice versa, same thing with me. So with us going into that, I went in and saying that these are my kids. I accepted her kids as my own. I'm there with them every day. I raise them. I feed them. I'm at every doctor's appointment, every game. Whatever it is that's coming up concerning the kids, I am there. Why? Because I have now stepped into that role as their father. Right. So with that, you know, and then with that, of course, it's going to take some adjusting. It's going to take some understanding. Why? Because you're coming into an environment and they don't know anything about you, nor do you know anything about them. So now you're learning each other. You're learning each other's likes, dislikes, do's and don'ts, triggers, everything. You're learning everything. So it definitely takes some time, but you got to be willing to put in the work.
Right. It takes a lot of work, and the main point that I really want to make with this real tip is that before you hop into a marriage, anytime a guy meets a woman and she have kids, that guy needs to go. If he plans to marry her, that guy needs to plan from day one that it's not her by herself.
Right.
Like she have kids that comes with her. So I mean, she comes with a package. And if the husband is not willing to accept what the wife brings into the marriage, then it's not going to work. You automatically have that door open for the enemy to come in and destroy the marriage and destroy the family, because the husband is not willing to accept what comes along with their wife. And so it's very important that all of these things are laid out before you even say I do.
And it's the same thing vice versa too, with the wives accepting the children of that husband. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you can't come in with like, this is my husband, this is mine, y'all just gonna have to deal with it. No, you should be coming into that marriage as looking to be a mother figure. Even if you don't know how to quote unquote be a father figure or quote unquote be a mother figure, learn. It's time to start learning. It's time to start walking in it. All them selfish attitudes, mood swings, and everything else, you got to get rid of. Yeah. Because that's something you got to get rid of anyway in marriage, because it's not just you by yourself. You just can't set the rules. This is what I'm going to follow. This is what I'm going to do. This and the third. You're going into a marriage saying, okay, what do I have? Your mindset should be, I recommend your mindset should be, what is it that I need to do in order to make sure that, for one, I have a successful marriage, two, that I'm being successful as a parent. Because you got to realize, like, these are lives that are in your hands, especially for men, because we're the head. So with us being the head, we now have more responsibility. These are lives that are in our hands. These are lives that God has placed inside of our life to take care of. And no, you're not the biological parent, but God still saw fit for you to be the best parent figure in that child's life. So regardless whether or not you are that child's biological father or biological mother, don't just write that child off. Still show that child just as much love as you would with your own biological seed. Still make sure that you're loving that child, encouraging that child, motivating that child, trying to build the best relationship as much as possible, as much as you possibly can, when it comes to you being a step parent. Even if they call you they stepdad, stepmom, whatever, these kids got to take time to adjust.
Yeah, and it takes time. It will take. Sometimes it will take years. I mean, because you got to realize they're coming. It's probably uncomfortable for them, just as well as it is uncomfortable for the person who is now your spouse. Y'all are all coming together now in a different environment and being a family. So it's going to take some adjusting with the kids as well as your spouse. So you have to give each other time, like give the kids time. Don't just hop in that marriage and say and start demanding these kids to obey everything that you say. Do this and do that and don't do. You can't just hop in there and because kids gonna be looking at you like, who's she talking to? Who he talking to? You have to realize that it's different for everybody. It's different for everybody. So everybody have to give each other time to readjust to something new. Like I've heard in some marriages where individuals would come and told us, I know it was an individual that told us like their stepdad, this child stepdad was beating on her and calling her names, and we heard the other situation where this little girl's stepdad did not want to give her nothing to eat, did not want to pick her up from school, did not want to drop her off, and and I don't want to put all the blame on the wife, but it's almost like you should have figured this out before you said I do. If you knew this man was not going to come in and accept your kids, then that should have been a red flag right there. Like
that's a huge flag.
Right. Like if you're not going to accept my kids, you're not accepting me because my kids are part of me. And so it's a very big issue nowadays that I see in marriages, that I have heard in marriage. Like marriage is very serious, and marriage takes work. It takes work with the kids. If your spouse comes with kids, that's extra work because, like I said earlier, you have to give these kids time to adjust. You just can't hop in and start being father or being dad just out of the blue and expect for these kids to bow down to what you're saying. You have to. I think the number one thing when it comes to these kids is showing love. Like if you come in with a loving heart, with a patient heart, and that's the fruit of the spirit: patience, love, kindness. If you come in with those type of spirits with in your marriage with these kids, it will draw them. It will draw them closer to you. It's just like what the word of God says. What's the word say when it was love that drawn us to God?
I forgot the scripture. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Love and kindness have I drawn thee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. Love and kindness drew us to God. It's the same thing with coming into a marriage. If you show these kids love and kindness, it'll draw them closer to you. Whether you come in there trying to just be demanding and being mean and being hateful, you giving the enemy room to come in and destroy your marriage off the top. And another thing that I've seen is that I've seen women let these men come in and let them do the kids like that. Like why would you let somebody? Why would you say I do to somebody that's going to mistreat your kids, first of all? And then you want to say, well, my marriage is messed up. My marriage is being torn apart. And then you blame the kids.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of them finding an excuse, because a lot of times, especially when it comes to you seeing things from a female perspective, a lot of times they want so badly to be married. Mm-hmm. They want to just have that title of being a wife that they don't care about what consequences come with it. Yeah. And so with that, you will have it where a lot of times women will ignore those red flags. They'll ignore those signs of like, okay, maybe this is not for the best. Maybe we shouldn't do this. Right. And you cannot leave your kids by the wayside. You cannot do that. You cannot say or have in the mindset, well, my kids can live their life, now I got to live mine, this, that, and the third. I do for y'all every day. Y'all are just let me be happy. And you're being selfish. Right. That's a selfish mindset to be in, because if you're in that type of relationship and you're only worried about yourself, regardless whether you are feeding your kids, clothing them, whatever, those are things that you have to do for those kids. Like, you got to do that. You got to feed them, you got to clothe them, you got to make sure they taken care of, taken to the doctor and everything. That's just being a parent, point blank, period. But going above and beyond to make sure that they are okay on the emotional and mental level. Yeah. It's also a part of being a parent. That is also a necessity, where you should not have your child going through that type of mental withdrawal or developing that type of hatred. And so now it starts off young, where you're now neglecting your child and you're putting your mate ahead of your child. And that seems like that's all you care about. So now the older your child gets, the more hatred, resentment that they build up towards you. Yeah. It's because you've now pushed them away. You've caused that drift to come in. You've caused that wedge to come in between you and your children. Why? Because you wanted to be married to so bad that you did not wait on God to bring you your spouse. You decided to go out and play matchmaker yourself. You decided to go out and play God yourself. And like, I don't care how you treat these kids. I don't care how you do this, that, and third. I got somebody to call my own. And while your own is tearing up your whole entire house. It's tearing up your whole household. Yep. Tearing up your whole life.
And now you, and just like you were saying, like, you put these kids through, a mental breakdown. Like, mm-hmm. they growing up with that resentment towards you because they feel like my mama or my dad put somebody before me. And so it really is a huge problem in marriages nowadays. I mean, nobody really takes marriage serious anymore. And I think until people really take marriage serious, if you're not ready, if that person is not ready to accept what comes along with you, then I would recommend you don't say I do, because you're not ready. And
not I ain't mean to cut you off, but not just that, something else God brought to my attention too, is that how some people will allow who you're dating or who you're inspiring to marry to make you pick between you and your children. Like, who? I've never understood that. Well, you got to pick, it's either me or your daughter, or it's either me or your son. It's either me or them. And so now that woman or that man is contemplating, like, okay, I love them, so maybe I should just send the kids to live with their grandparents or live with my sister or my brother, just so until we get everything worked out, then I can bring them back. Yeah, that'll work. No, that shouldn't even be an option. Exactly. That's Satan from the jump. That's Satan going in and tearing up your household from the jump. If that person wants you to already push away something that should be so important to you, you're willing to do that. You're willing to sacrifice that for this person, and this person doesn't love you already. They're already showing you their selfish tendencies and their selfish motives and everything else. I've never understood that with people. Even while I worked there, even while I did security during the school system, and kids used to come to me, Officer Broughton, and I see the kids like, hey, what's wrong? Why are you crying? What's going on? It's 7 o'clock in the morning. Why are you up crying? Oh, my mom let her boyfriend put me out. My mom put me out because her boyfriend didn't like me. My mom put me out because me and her boyfriend got into it. That is the most heartbreaking thing to hear as a parent, because you're letting someone who clearly doesn't care about your kids, but this person is living with you, probably maybe helping you pay a couple of bills, maybe, if that, living in your house, eating your food, using your electricity, using your water, but don't even want to step into the role as a father. Doesn't even want to step in the role as a husband. Doesn't even want to step in the role as the head of household. And it's the excuse, a lot of them probably use excuse, man, I ain't know how to do it. Man, ain't nobody teach me how to do nothing. I didn't either. Me personally, I didn't have a male role model coming up. Nobody taught me how to be a father. Nobody taught me how to be a husband. And I tell y'all this all the time, and part of my testimony, even when my mom got married when I was 16, I was so headstrong and gun-ho and so ready to get out the house, I did not even care. This man came into a situation where he had to try and be a father to a rebellious child. So by the time I accepted him, I was already out the house. So no, I didn't have that father figure coming up. And no, I didn't have a mentor coming up. I had my uncles, but they were busy with their own families, taking care of their households. They couldn't tend to me. So I didn't learn a lot of stuff until after I got married. But the point was, I was willing to learn.
Yeah, and I can say, as you know, as your wife, and not just saying it because you're my husband, but I can honestly say that when my husband came into my life, he did not call my two kids that I had at the time, he did not call them stepkids. He accepted them as his own. He loved them. He cared for them. He went out of his way to make sure they were happy. And I can honestly say that my husband have done that since day one. And the thing that a lot of women need to understand, that before you say I do, you need to make sure that, number one, he's God sent. Number two, you need to make sure that when you get ready to say I do to this man, you need to make sure that he is accepting your kids wholeheartedly as his own, because everybody's about to be a family now.
Yep.
Why would God bring you somebody that's not going to accept your kids? And that's why a lot of times people get into these marriages and they think that it's going to work, but this man is not accepting what comes along with you. That's a no-no. Do not say I do to this man. Even if you're in a marriage where your husband is not accepting your kids, now you in this marriage. Now you want to stay in this marriage until death do you apart. But if he's not treating your kids right, something needs to be handled there, because you are scarring these kids emotionally. My number one recommendation would be, before you say I do, make sure this man accepts what comes along with you. You got to realize that each person is coming into something, and you about to make it into one big happy family.
Exactly.
You know, my husband came with package. I came with package. We had things that we had to deal with individually, but guess what? We work together as one big family. He was patient with my two kids. My kids, you know, it took them some time to adjust. Did it hurt my husband a little bit that they didn't fully accept him? Yes, it did. But we didn't allow the enemy to come in and say, well, I don't want this marriage no more because your kids are not accepting me. My husband never had that type of attitude. My husband always had the attitude as, I want to love these kids, do what I can to help them to accept me. Help them to realize that I'm not trying to hurt your mama. I'm not trying to hurt you. And he's patient with them. He spends time with them. He go out with them. He do one-on-one time with the boys. With Therese, I had at the time before we got married, and he take Therese out. He mentored Therese. With Miracle being a female, it's a little bit different with females because we are so emotionally driven. So it's different with females. He takes time out with Miracle. Tell her how much she's beautiful, so she won't have to go out here looking for it from another male that don't care anything about her. She hear it from her stepfather. And like I said, we don't even use the word stepfather. We say dad, because that's the role that God has given him. My husband know that he don't label himself as stepfather. He label himself as father, because this is the role that God has honored him to have in our marriage. And my husband honors that title. And so, and I'm not just saying that, you know, just trying to boast him up because he's right next to me. I'm truly being honest. And I thank God for my husband, because he loves me as God loves me. Well, nobody can love like God does, but I really do feel the love of God that comes through my husband to me. And I can actually feel that same love going to my kids. And so, and why is this such a success in our marriage because I waited. I waited on God to send me my husband. And when we got in this marriage, we fought for this marriage. We knew that we were not going to let nothing or nobody come and destroy what God has put together. And even though it was hard at times for my kids to accept my husband still brought the fruits of the Spirit: love, patience, kindness, and he still worked at that to this day. So my number one thing that I want married couples to get is that no matter how hard it is for these kids to accept your spouse, keep showing love, keep showing patience, keep showing kindness. It's different for them just as well as it's different for you. Okay? Everybody is coming into this as one. Be patient with each other. Be patient with each other. And to the ones that are single, make sure that this person who you about to say I do to accepts what comes along with you. You know, listen to the red flags. Yes. Listen to the red flags. Pay attention to the red flags. I mean, you'll know, even if that person is trying to put on to make it seem like he want to accept your kids or she want to accept your kids. Something there is going to throw up a red flag like, no, he or she is not going to be good to my kids. Like, be careful you don't take these kids through emotional stress. It's so much of that going on now. Even with us being foster parents, we hear so much of these stories with kids just being in a very bad emotional state, and it's so heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking to hear because now they're going out and try to find love in the wrong places, and then they end up getting themselves into a worse situation. Yeah. And of course they're gonna point the finger back at my mama or my daddy.
It starts at home.
Because it starts at home.
It starts at home. It always starts at home. So.
Yep. So we're gonna take a. You had anything else you want to add?
No, I was about to say we're about to take a real quick break.
All right. So we're gonna take a break, and we'll be right back with my real tip.
years is a very long time. Even when I'm on the road, shawty always on my mind. Baby girl been with me since day one, that's A1. We sauced up, then bossed up, they hate us, don't need them. Your friends in your ear telling lies, and I know that. We both did our dirt, but we moved on and own that. Now we both back in love like the first time. So let me get my thoughts together for this next line. I knew you was the one, and that's cliche, but I shed a tear when you walked the aisle on that day. Forever beautiful with your small mouth and flaws. It's only a few, but girl, I'll take them all. I just pray that we move past the past, and when you play this song, girl, you know our love will last. I just pray that you move past the past, so when we play the song, girl, you know our love will last. And I wanna write this. I said I wanna write it for you. I wanna make this. I hope you gon' feel it, girl.
All right, so here's my rib tip. My rib tip is that you continue to show love no matter what. No matter how long it takes for each child to accept your spouse, continue to show love. Continue to show the fruits of the Spirit: love, patience, kindness. Remember that it's a different environment for these kids, and they're probably just fearing that, what if this person don't come in and treat my mother right or treat my father right? What are they going to do to me? A lot of times kids fear what may happen, and the Bible say perfect love casts out all fear. So remember, continue to show love no matter what. This is your family that God has given you. Do whatever you have to do to keep your family together. Show love no matter what. I love you guys. Until next time, this has been your Rib Tip.